studies show that it's gonna take eight times before you ever reach someone if you're cold calling. I have proof that you can call someone who doesn't know you and get them to buy something. If I were to do it today, this is how I would do it differently.
Energy high, excuses low. Energy high, excuses low. Energy high, excuses low. Energy high.
Hey guys, it's Ashley Kirkwood with the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. And today we are talking about, is cold calling dead? And truth of the matter is, no, it's not dead. But the real question, the better question is it the most effective way to let people know about your offers? Now, we do call our customers, but we typically don't call people who aren't already opted into our list. They may not know a lot about who we are or our services, but they have at least had some brand connection to Speak Your Way to Cash. But it was not always like this. So as you all know, I left my $300,000 corporate attorney job to start my own business. And while I was at that corporate attorney job, I wrote a book called The Law School Hustle. Well, one of the things we did in order to get sales for the book was cold call. And myself and a law student actually cold called law schools to set up a speaking tour for my book. There are about 220 law schools. We called as many of them as we could, and we'd say, hey, Ashley's coming to a city near you. Did you want to be on the tour for the book? And most of them would be like, transfer, which makes sense because studies show that it's gonna take eight times before you ever reach someone if you're cold calling. 8 times. That means you cannot call once and think you're gonna reach a prospect. You cannot call twice and think you're gonna reach a prospect. You gotta call 8 times. Now, let's back up. We kind of started my story at being a lawyer, but let's back it on up. After college, I worked at a company called Acquire It. And I was an inside sales rep. My job was to go to work, 8 a.m., I had to be in Evanston. I took 2 trains and a bus to get to work. And all day, every day, I would make over 100 cold calls to a list that was generated for us and was put into Salesforce. I had to make the call, take the notes, make the call, take the notes. And so what I learned in doing that was that if I made all 110 calls, there would be 1 to maybe 4 people every day who was interested. So let's do the math on that. Let's say there's 1 person a day who's interested. That's 5 interested people by the end of the week. Let's say that none of those people convert. Okay, but if you do that all month and you just get 1 person interested a day out of 100 calls, then that means you're gonna have 20 interested prospects. Well, out of the 20 that are interested, let's say 20% convert. Okay, now you got 4 new customers, and depending on your price point, that could be massive. The thing that I love about cold calling is it's not like Facebook ads where you need a large budget to start. You really just need to get the information of these people, and you can do that using tools like Apollo.io. We'll post a link to it in the comments. So in the show notes rather. So cold calling isn't dead, but is it the most effective way for you? I don't know. Now, because I did so many cold calls, after a while, I actually learned what would be most effective when cold calling. So I realized that if I called New York and I did like a New York accent, that'd be more effective. If I call Chicago, I do a Chicago accent, which I don't hear because I'm from Chicago. But anyways, that'd be more effective. If I called the South, I would do a Southern accent. That could be very effective. So there were some things that I did to kind of make it fun for me. I don't even know if effective is the right word for that, but it at least made it more fun making hundreds of calls a day. But the thing that was effective is called the Jones method of selling. This is when, let's say I call Sarah, and Sarah went to the University of Illinois. Then I called a client, John, who I looked up and realized John also went to the University of Illinois. And let's say Sarah closed as a client. I would call John and say, hey, John, just wanted to reach out to you. One of the alum of the University of Illinois, Sarah, just closed with us, and she said you may be a good fit, right? So it's almost like the Jones method. Like, I don't know if that's from Keeping Up with the Joneses or where that originates, but essentially you use the commonality of client A to help you build rapport with the commonality of potential client B. And this even works today. Like when you meet a client and they're like, oh yeah, I went to, oh yeah, I'm an accountant. Oh, we have an accountant in our mastermind. Jones method of selling. Like, how can you show them that you're already working with people who are like them so that they trust you? It helps you borrow credibility from your prospect or your customer who's already like the other people who you want to make customers. So that is one thing that I used to do that was definitely effective. The other thing was once I closed one company in a franchise, I would reach out to every other company that has that same franchise. So consider like Mary Maids. I remember, and what I was selling, you guys, because I didn't even tell y'all what I was selling. I was selling fleet card. So basically it's this little gas card that you can give to your employees and it'll track what they spend and it'll restrict what they can spend money on. So they can't just go to the gas station and get candy while they're getting gas. So for people who have employees, this was a great option because if you have a Right Express card, then you're able to control expenses better, see in real time where people are spending and restrict spending if you don't want them to be buying other things with their company card. You can't do that with just a traditional company debit card or even a company credit card necessarily, depending on which brand you work with. At the time, this was like this was back in the day, y'all. This was like before I was even a lawyer back in the day. So this was probably 2011, 2012, around there. I don't remember exactly, but it was early. It was around that time. So it wasn't common to have all the technology that we have now where people can kind of do this with a variety of cards. So that was what I was selling. So if I called a Mary Maids franchise and the owner agreed to get the Right Express card and they would like agree to do it over the phone from a cold call. Let me say it like this. I have proof that you can call someone who doesn't know you and get them to buy something, because that used to be my full-time job. That means those of you who need more customers, but you're sitting at home not calling nobody, not pitching nobody, not talking to nobody, like you are wasting time when you could be getting customers. Is it the most effective strategy? I don't know. I don't know what's in your repertoire of sales strategies. I don't know what vehicles you're open to using, but I know it still works, okay? And so this process of cold calling really taught me a lot about human psychology, how words really do help people move in one direction or another, how if you don't sound desperate, you won't get hung up on as much. So if you call and they pick up and it's like, hey, son, like trying to get all of this stuff out before they pick up, you already know you're not gonna make that sale. Baby, you ain't gonna make that sale. You know what I mean? So cold calling can be effective, but it does take a certain level of skill and strategy that you have to put into it to really learn the game. What we do a lot more of now is actually cold emailing. Now, cold calling has a success rate of about 2%. Cold emailing has a success rate of between 1 and 3%, which means depending on how good you are at making your cold emails specific to the buyer, you could have more success cold calling than you have cold emailing. And what does cold mean? Cold means the classification of it being a cold email or a cold call literally means that the person you're reaching out to has no clue who you are. When I call people who've opted into my email list, it's not considered in the industry cold calling. It's considered warm outreach, warm calling. And so you want to make sure, like, warm calling for sure. We still do that every day of the week. We have someone who's on staff. That is what she does, right? But she's calling people who have some information, some semblance of knowledge as to who we are. So it's a very different call. It's a very different cadence. It's warmer. It's easier to make. They know who you are. You're not selling them on staying on the phone. They're typically not hanging up. So it's very different. But cold calling can, of course, still be effective. If I were to do it today, this is how I would do it differently. And this is great for people who are selling to colleges, selling to corporations, selling technology. If you're selling any of those services, listen up, right? I would email and then I would cold call. So I would literally send the cold email and then I would follow up with a call and say, hey, I just sent you an email. Just wanted to make sure you got it. We've been seeing some people get it, some people don't. You know what I mean? So that's how I would have that conversation. I wouldn't just cold call, like, hey, let me tell you who I am, let me tell you what I'm doing, da, 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 da. Like, I don't like the way that feels for me. So I would not do that. But I wouldn't do that anymore. But it's definitely still effective. So you have cold calling, cold emailing. You have kind of we've looked at a little bit about what I would do differently if I were cold emailing. But let's talk about what is a more effective strategy. I believe cold emailing is a more effective strategy. And I'll give you 3 reasons why. Number 1, it's not as invasive. Cold calling is very invasive. You are disrupting their day to day with an unsolicited, unplanned, unscheduled call. For how much busy executives are doing right now, that may not be the most effective thing to do. Now, cold emailing is more effective to me because you can also scale it without also scaling human capital. If you want to increase the number of emails you send out, there are tools and tech systems to allow you to do that. If you want to increase the number of calls you send out beyond a certain point, you're going to need more people to do that, which means more money added to your bottom line. Depending on where you're at in business, this may or may not be something you want to invest in. So that's the second strategy. And then the third reason why cold emailing may be more effective than cold calling is because when you send a cold email, you actually give them the ability to respond, and which we said before, but you also give them the ability to get more information about you before responding. So when you include additional links and information, they can easily go to that email, click the link, get additional information about you, and then they can decide if they want to respond based on the business assets you send over or their own search. So that's a really effective way to do that. But overall, I really think you all should be cold emailing, DMing people on social media platforms, and then speaking at events, pitching to speak at events where your ideal consumer is. If you're interested in direct outreach, you really need to be in the Pitch Your Way to Cash membership. That membership specifically breaks down how you can do direct outreach, how you can pitch for conferences, how you can pitch for speaking engagements, how you can pitch for corporate clients, how you can pitch for nonprofit clients, how you can pitch for coaching clients. It's a great, great, great way for you to learn how to pitch. We have sample pitches and templates and a whole coaching community that you get when you join, which literally walks you step by step through your pitch process, your sales plan. It's incredible. One of the best things that I've ever created. And I want to see you in the membership. If you love our YouTube channel, there's no reason for you not to join us in the Pitch Your Way to Cash membership, okay? And if you're someone who's like, okay, that's a virtual community, do you have anything in person? I do. Black Women Sell Live is coming up in October of 2024. And we are going to walk you through your sales process, your sales strategy, and your sales acceleration plan. It's going to be off the chain. And I want to see you there. Check out this commercial for Black Women Sell Live. Calling all Black women experts. Speak Your Way to Cash is hosting its second Black Women Sell live and in person in Atlanta, Georgia. Now let me talk to my sisters for a minute. We have been making millions for centuries. When you think about entrepreneurs like Madam C.J. Walker, Mary Ellen Pleasant, and so many others, we know that generating millions of dollars in sales is in our blood and it's in our history. But for some reason, the average receipts of Black women businesses is less than $50,000. We have put together this event, Black Women Sell Live, to show you examples of Black women making millions in sales and using their expertise to land large contracts, not just so you can see how they did it, but so that you can learn how you can do it too. Speak Your Way to Cash has hosted dozens of live events with hundreds of positive reviews, and this will be no different. We're not coming just to change your business. We're coming to change every area of your life for the better. If you want to learn how to make millions from social media content, how to land $100,000 plus contracts, how to make millions by being yourself in your marketing and messaging, and how to increase your business's profitability as well as its bottom line, then you need to be in the building for Black Women Sell Live. Whether you're a coach, an expert, a consultant, someone that sells to large corporations, school districts, colleges, or individual coaching clients, or maybe you sell to executives, we have a session for you. Let me tell you the real reason why you have to be in the room. I don't want you going back home another day, looking in your phone and searching for a sister who gets it. I want you to come in a room, look left and look right, and be surrounded by women who get it. Women who are building and changing their families as legacies. Women who are having incredible marriages and relationships. Women who are doing it all without sacrificing their peace or themselves in the process. If you are a Black women expert looking to sell more services, then I want you in the building for Black Women Sell Live. Join us in Atlanta, Georgia, October 3rd through the 5th, 2024. And I'll be there, Ashley Kirkwood, hosting you for Black Women Sell Live, sponsored by Speak Your Way to Cash. Go to blackwomensellavent.com and get your ticket today before they sell out. All right, guys, so I hope you got some tips about cold emailing. I really wanted to make this a quick episode that really just dove deep on that. Also, whenever you're cold emailing or cold calling, you have to abide by the law. There are a variety of laws that you have to follow. And so you want to make sure that you are abreast on those laws. Reach out to an attorney if you're going to utilize these strategies. Now, in general, you may need consent. Get consent on your website. Have people opt in. Also, you want to make sure that you're not calling after a certain time of night. Depending on your region, these laws can vary. So these are consumer protection laws, and there are a variety. So there's always legality that you want to consider even with your sales process. So it's not just, I'm gonna just call everybody. If someone's on a do not call registry, you're not supposed to call them. And so you want to make sure that you have your ducks in a row and you have a strategy by which you can legally reach out to customers, okay? So there's that, guys. And a lot of these laws may even apply to like people who use an auto dialer or a voicemail drop system. So the law really does vary depending on like, it's even technical, like, does this qualify? Are the types of calls I'm making covered under this particular act? So whoever you use for your attorney for your business, make sure they are familiar with consumer protection laws. Otherwise, there are a variety of ways you can find consumer protection attorneys. One way is go to the American Bar Association and search for consumer protection attorneys. There's a variety of things that you could do, but you do want to know the laws that affect the way you market, the way you sell, and the way you do business, okay? So that's just like a pro tip. That's just a pro tip, okay? But cold calling isn't dead. It may be a strategy that you decide to use. Cold emailing also has their own laws. You must have a way for people to opt out. There's a variety of things that you have to do in order to make sure that you are protected. And so I definitely want to make sure that while we're talking about sales and we're talking about marketing, we're also cognizant of the legalities that are at play, okay? Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you cold call right now. If you don't, why not? If you cold email, let me know that too. And then if you're not doing any of those things, what are you doing to get new customers into your funnels? I wanna hear about it, all right? I will see you guys next time on the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast.
Yeah. Energy high, excuses low. Energy high, excuses low. Energy high, excuses low. Energy high, excuses low. I need energy, need only good people that's around me. All the faith you can give, that's the recipe.